a different setting again, but I'm coming today with a really powerful message that I believe a lot of highly sensitive people, a lot of people who are going through their awakening, a lot of people who feel like they've isolated themselves a little bit because they're on their personal development, improvement journey, need to hear. And my message for today is simply the idea that people will come into your life when you start being real. And this is the curious question now, isn't it? What does it mean to be real? What does it really mean? How do I know when I'm real? And how do I know when I am fake? Or I am putting myself in a box just to cater to somebody else's needs who are not in alignment with my genuine values? These are really curious questions that I believe everybody needs to consider. Because if you feel a little bit, or maybe a lot, unfulfilled in your social circles, in your current relationship dynamics, how else could you find the courage and be brave enough to let go of the people who don't align with your values and position yourself in a place where you are available for new people to enter in your life? If people will come into your life when you start being real, what does it mean to be real? And I want to take a moment to just acknowledge this isolation, loneliness pandemic that I believe currently we are collectively, as a human consciousness, going through. There is this loneliness pandemic where no matter whether you're surrounded by people or you're by yourself, there is this deeper aspect, part of your being that feels lonely. And this is happening for everybody collectively on some level or another. And it's a really curious dynamic to explore, because how can we feel lonely if we are surrounded by people? Or on the other end, how can we feel whole and complete and as if we belong when we are just by ourselves and we are in alignment with our values? It's a little bit like a paradox, isn't it? Because on one end, you can be with others, surrounded by others, and feel lonely. On the other end, you can be by yourself and feel like you belong. So, where is the middle ground? Where is it? And I want to go back to this question I asked because I think it's really powerful question that everybody needs to consider and answer for themselves. What does it mean to be authentic? I don't believe that authenticity is the same for everybody. I believe that actually everybody understands authenticity differently. For me, on my journey, I realized that I am authentic when I am aware of my feelings. They are acknowledged, I validate them, and I'm willing to be vulnerable enough and courageous enough to express them with others, no matter how they would respond, without it having a real consequence on my ability to be self-expressive. So it's really curious to explore, and I needed to explore that for myself, and in fact I'm still exploring it on some level. Why would we need to cater to people's needs who don't respect our values? Have you caught yourself doing that? And if you did, why? Why would you cater? Why would you please and be there for people who don't respect your values? This is the collective loneliness that I'm talking about. Because we as humans are deeply afraid of being alone, of facing ourselves to the depth that we are capable of, to as much depth as we are capable of, then we assume that we need to cater to people who sometimes we don't like, sometimes they're disrespectful, sometimes they have completely different values to ours, but we assume that it's better than just facing that loneliness dead in the eye. And it's a curious question, why? Why would we do that? We assume that it's better to be with others than to be with ourselves, when in fact we can only discover and align to our genuine highest values when we are by ourselves. Let me ask you this. Have you had experiences where you are just so aligned with yourself that you felt like you belong to yourself? And since you belong to yourself, it doesn't matter where you were, with whom you were, you knew that you belong. And you could be yourself, you could speak up, you could share what is meaningful, you could share what feels exciting, you could share even your insecurities, your fears. And it didn't matter because you knew at this moment that you belong to yourself. Because I'm sure you've had moments like that, haven't you? Just take a moment to recall such an experience. And I want to ask you from that state another question. If you could be yourself to that extent where you feel like you belong, even though you are just in your own presence, what if you could bring that same attitude, that same state of being in your relationship to others? What you find out is, on one end, a little bit disturbing. On another, it's like an illumination. It's like the biggest realization you might have. You will find out, and you might have already done that, that some people prefer you to be yourself, while other people feel like they don't belong in your presence. And then it's a really curious it's a really curious experience when you feel that, when you actually experience it, because then you see that I don't need to decide who are my people. My people will decide who am I to them. They will find me, they will come into my life. It is inevitable. My only responsibility thus is to be real, whatever real means to me, whatever real means to you. So what does real mean to you? What does authentic mean to you? Something else which is important for me, it's one of my highest values other than vulnerability, is meaningful relationships. To have some shared goals, shared vision. Maybe it's a shared project or collaboration I'm working with my friends. Or maybe it's just that joy of being vulnerable with one another and sharing each other's suffering. This is another really beautiful aspect of my friendships that I highly value, and I'm deeply grateful at this time because it's fascinating. I cannot say that I've been able to have this kind of depth in my relationships looking back 6 years ago. I didn't. But since I've changed my self expression, I've become more and more real with time. I've allowed myself to feel uncomfortable and embraced loneliness many times over and over again. Now, the relationships I have and I experience, they feel aligned. They feel like they're constantly opening up, and there is greater opportunity for both me and the other person in front of me, my friends, the people who I surround with, to be more of ourselves. And it's a beautiful rediscovery of the depth of our relationship. In fact, I haven't found a limit to that. This is really curious for me to explore how deeply I can feel connected with somebody, how deeply we can feel okay with one another. It's a powerful, really powerful experience. And I believe that it's available to everybody who has the willingness and courage and is brave enough to face his or her loneliness. And since you are now comfortable with your loneliness, it doesn't matter whether you're lonely by yourself or you're lonely in the presence of others. And this is when people start coming to you. It is inevitable. It's your being that attracts them. Your alignment to your own values, to which you belong, attracts the people who value the same values as you do. This is how you attract who you are. It's the law of attraction in essence, working its magic in the paradigm of social relationships. And it's beautiful. If you could be everything that you are willing to be when you are by yourself, but instead you find the courage to be that same being, that same person, with the values that are important and meaningful to you, with the attitude you enjoy expressing, and you have the courage to be that around others, the magic will happen. It's a beautiful process. And yeah, I just want to share that message and encourage you to maybe become more. Give yourself permission. It's not about becoming. It's about giving yourself permission to be more real. To call that friend that you know you want to speak to when you feel low. Don't repress that desire. To share that really painful experience you've had from the past with somebody you know wants to hear it and wants to connect with you on a deeper level. To express your biggest dream with a friend and share how insecure you maybe feel, right? Because you value being the best that you're capable of. Maybe. I do value that. And if you were able to express that, inevitably, people will find you. So it's worth it, my friend. Give it a try and see what happens. And if you want to see the big picture overview of this journey of attracting aligned relationships, relationships that are shared, that share mutual values, that are coming from the same ground, they are stepping on the same ground of values. You can check out this last video. It's not the last video, but it's the last video I made on this topic, in which I basically look at this 3 phases that people pass through until you reach that state where you can confidently say, yes, my relationships are aligned. I am a part of my tribe. I belong to my tribe. And I know that I have people around me who I care for. I know that they care for me. I know that we belong to one another. I know that we can rely to one another. I know that I can share the depths of my soul, the depths of my heart and being with them the same exact way that I can share that with me. Because others can only see you for the depth they have seen themselves. And the opposite works in exactly the same way. If you constantly find yourself on a deeper level within yourself, you get to know yourself better, you will inevitably attract people who also get to know themselves better. But you need to be willing to express what you have found. You need to be willing to be real and authentic. And it is worth it. It's an amazing experience. So this was my message for today. Different setting, different flow maybe, different attitude, because it's totally unprepared, even though I just knew that I wanted to share that message. And I want to thank you for staying with me. I really want to acknowledge you for that, because this means that you are leaving your isolation phase. You're becoming comfortable with that isolation phase. And you are finding the courage within to be more real and authentic, so that you can attract whomever belongs to you. And yes, people will come into your life. Thank you so much. Like this video, comment down below, let me know what's your experience in your relationships after your spiritual awakening, or after you've become more deeply committed to your personal improvement. I would really love to hear about your experience, maybe some of the challenges you face, maybe some of the insights you've had. I would enjoy that conversation. So yeah, I would appreciate it if you take the time to write that down if it comes to mind. And subscribe to the channel if you're new to it, because in Higher Consciousness with Danny, I will invite you to similar conversations so that you can ponder, self-reflect, and answer the questions that you have been looking to find an answer to. Those deeper questions that I know are important for you. Thank you so much, and see you around, my friend. Bye-bye.